toll from the recent floods in the South African province of KwaZulu-Natal has risen to 49.
After a fairly subdued night, the Knysna fires have begun to grow again.
We begin tonight with a nation already on edge in the coronavirus pandemic as protests turn violent.
London's burning and no one seems able to bring it under control.
You're listening to Off-Grid Survival, South Africa's first prepper podcast.
And we are your hosts, Brett and Ben.
Good afternoon, Ben. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, not too shabby. Got a couple of things to chat about today. Nothing really planned as such. But I think, we'll have a good chat. People seem to be enjoying these rambling chats that we have.
That's good to know.
Just like to thank everybody that's listening and leaving reviews. We're up to 187 followers on Spotify. Woo! And we've got 17 5-star ratings on Spotify, which is awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and our Facebook group is growing every day. We're up to nearly 150 people on Facebook. So yeah, very cool. Very cool. Thank you everybody that takes the time to listen to us, and we do appreciate it.
Yes, well, very much.
Yeah, and keep giving reviews. One of the reviews we got from our episode on the movie review episode that we did. Somebody recommended we should look at another prepper movie on Netflix called The Decline, which I haven't heard about. I'll have a look at that this evening.
Okay.
And see if it's any good. Anything you've been watching lately, dude?
Not much. I think I started watching The Road or something, like a series.
The series, not the movie.
Yeah, I think so. I wasn't really paying a lot of attention, but some of the things are interesting, some of the things are irritating, but once it got into the swing of things, it seemed to pick up a bit of momentum. But yeah, the whole world is completely like lifeless, empty of people, should I say? And but it's I'll have to watch a bit more just to get a better feel for it.
Okay.
It's not like The Walking Dead, which I only got 15 minutes into the whole series.
Yeah,
and then I canned it.
Walking Dead has its issues.
Yeah, I hate stuff that I know what's going to happen before it even happens.
Yeah.
Those type of series and movies don't last long.
Yeah, so I've been watching a show called Earth Abides, which is a new post-apocalyptic pandemic type series, where this guy is at a cabin in the woods and he gets sick and he wakes up from being bitten by a snake, actually, by a rattlesnake.
Yes.
And the world's dead. Everybody's dead. And he thinks he's the only person left alive.
Okay.
I'm only 3 episodes into it at the moment, but in those 3 episodes, we've moved about 16 years, which I find is a little bit jarring sometimes. You'll be in the middle of an episode and all of a sudden you're at a 14th birthday party, because it turns out he's not the only person still alive.
Well, I just hate the fact that the first 2 people he meet basically top themselves.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
Yeah. That was in that casino scene,
yes,
where he's walking around absolutely stark as getting wasted on all the booze. I would have probably done exactly the same thing, I'll be honest. If I could go to Vegas and have all that top shelf booze. Yeah.
What amazes me is he drives that car and he drives and he drives and he drives.
But he never puts fuel in.
Yeah, but he's doing like stupid speeds.
Yeah.
Trying to kill himself. But a car goes through a lot of juice at those speeds.
Yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting show.
Yeah.
But like I said, the time jumps are a little bit. I'm a lover of sci-fi and fantasy shows, and whenever they do time jumps, I always find it very jarring. I like a smooth flow.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, time jumps are useful when you're trying to tell a long story in a short time. They got to have reasons, but they shouldn't be out of a natural progression.
Yeah.
So you can't like I haven't got to that point yet, but you can't have it where at 16 years later, you didn't know they were going to have a kid and now they got a kid. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
Maybe do a shorter jumps so that you get that storyline in there a little.
Yes. But yeah, apart from that, things have been pretty quiet. Haven't been doing that much. We started remodeling our studio. We've moved some things around, getting a little bit more professional. I've got a boom in front of me with my mic on it this week, as opposed to having it on straight on the desk, which is cool.
And where did you get it from?
Our Chinese friends. Timu.
Yeah, we had to deaden the springs. It sounded like somebody was playing double bass.
Yeah, so we've got some Velcro and elastic and stuff, just quietening things down a bit on here. But yeah, we're going to be doing some woodworking this afternoon, putting some nice paneling up and making a pretty studio so we can start doing video and putting it up on YouTube. We've been getting a lot of requests for people apparently not everybody listens to Spotify. A lot of people want to see things when they listen to stuff as well.
Yeah, one of the recommendations I got from a friend was he listens to a lot of financial stuff. He says there's so much fake news and AI stuff out there. They want to see the people talking. They want to see it's actually them that's talking. Yes, AI can generate a lot of stuff, but there's certain tells that the guys pick up on that shows that it's not real or it's generated.
Definitely, yeah. No, so yeah, we're moving in that direction slowly but surely. And once we get putting our woodworking skills and construction skills to good use this afternoon, we will hopefully be able to start doing some filming in this 4x4 meter space that we call a studio.
Well, you do woodworking, you creative. For me, woodwork entails chainsaw and fire.
Okay, we won't be using either of those inside my house, thank you. But no, listen, things are going well, guys. We're episode 24 we're recording now, so we've come a long way in 9 months. We're nearly to our first year. Thank you again to everybody. And a huge thank you to CJ from Dark Side Leathercraft, who, if anybody's seen the video on YouTube where I did my very first ever unboxing video, man, I was nervous doing that, dude. It's so much easier talking to a microphone than talking to a camera. But CJ, the stuff you sent is absolutely awesome. We've already given out quite a few of the keyrings to people. For those of you that didn't see it, they are laser engraved leather keyrings with antique brass finish. These things are absolutely awesome. If you buy some stuff from us going forward in the future, as soon as we get the website up and running, the first couple of people that buy will definitely get one of those for free. So CJ, Dark Side Leathercraft, you guys are awesome. Thank you very much.
It's got our logo that's on our cap as well.
Yes.
Have you posted any pictures of that logo? I mean, can we get a bit of feedback on
what
people think of it?
It's on Facebook. Yeah, guys, let us know what you think. The cap's up there, and the keyrings are up there. Have a look at it. Tell us what you think, please.
It would be great to have feedback.
And then this is you haven't seen these yet. This is some other leatherwork stuff. Yeah, they're like little wallets and stuff.
The ones what's that? Card.
That's a card. That one I'm keeping, dude. That's mine.
Okay, it's got a bit of paracord in it.
Yeah, very cool, huh?
It's got stainless stitching on two sides.
All hand stitched. No machine stitching, nothing.
Very nice.
Very cool.
I like this other one.
The little card wallet, the business card holder.
Yeah. It's got a single pouch, but there's not one stitch in it. They've got a weird, very interesting locking system. They cut the leather in such a way that when you put it through the hole, when it opens up on the inside, it can't pull back through the hole.
It's very cool, huh?
So the leather stitches itself.
Yeah.
I like this. Actually, like a haversack, not a haversack, one of these collection
sling bag or something.
Yeah, like a sling bag, but they use it for collecting when you harvesting.
A foraging bag.
Foraging, there we go. Something like that would actually be in this
very
soft
cool,
material. Would be really nice.
Little belt loop on there.
Yeah, it would. I would dig a thing across the shoulder, foraging bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that would be really awesome.
Let's just say we're in talks.
Okay. No, sweet. No,
We have discussed it when I was down in Cape Town.
Okay. And do we have a website up for them or the details?
Yes, I'll put it all in the show notes. So Dark Side Leathercraft, you can look them up on Facebook and Instagram, and I do have a website.
Okay. Excellent.
Which I can't remember it offhand right now, but I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah,
I think it's darksidelethercraft at .co.za.
Oh, the stuff, the logo is embossed in here.
Yeah.
So they do a laser etching as well as just embossing into their leather.
Well, they do standard leather work. They do a wide range of stuff. Everything from handbags to leather masks to belts, all sorts of stuff. Got a very wide-ranging clientele. Everything is handmade at home, small business.
Smells
and
like
then
leather.
It is genuine leather. It is awesome.
Leather's got such a nice smell.
And they've got a room where they were all the leather hanging.
Yes.
And I walked in there, and it's just got that tanned leather smell, and it's like, oh man, it's like sitting in a expensive car.
My brother tanned some of his kudu leather with wattle bark, and it's that leather's got it smells like rooibos.
Okay.
It's a completely different smell to standard tanned leather.
I believe these are all veggie tanned as well, so it's no chemicals used or anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then recently they bought the laser engraver, which is when I was in Cape Town, I saw that. I did put some pictures up on the Facebook as well, and that's where the idea of the keyrings came from.
And do they do custom things? So if a person wanted a knife sheath or something,
Yep.
do they do all that?
Yep.
Or if you really fancy a cell phone holder?
Get hold of them, and they'll give you a quote.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, proper leather work is really awesome. You get so many of the stuff coming from overseas and stuff. They'll build a sheath and it's badly designed, so your knife actually just either cuts the stitching or it cuts the belt itself. I mean, the pouch itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That's awesome.
Very nice stuff, and we'll definitely be getting more from them in the future.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And talking about websites, our website is in production at the moment. It is slowly being built. My fault. I was meant to send some images and color palettes and stuff through, and work just got ahead of me, and I clean forgot about it. So to our web developer, very sorry. We will get that off to you. But what is our web address, dude? We've got a domain already.
Yes.
Sorry, did I?
Will have to.
Okay, we'll come back
one
to
up. Yeah, it hasn't been published yet, but yeah, once it's up, we can actually put it in Linktree. It'll be available there.
Yeah, so we'll have our website up and running hopefully in the next month or so, because we've already got stuff to put in our store. We've got the caps, we've got the keyrings, and we've just signed up as a reseller for Foodsock, who we did an interview back, I think it was it episode 10 or 11?
A long time ago.
Quite a lot. It feels like years ago, but it was only about 6 or 7 months ago. So we are, as of this weekend, an official reseller for Foodsock. It's very cool. They've redone their packaging and everything like they discussed with us when we interviewed them. That's all out on the market now. So the stuff looks great. So we will be selling Foodsock on our website and here locally on the garden route. We're an authorized reseller for that. And if there's anything you guys want us to sell or things that you think we should have on our website, please let us know. And we will look into reselling them. As much as possible, I'd love to do South African stuff. I don't really want to resell stuff from China. If we can get some American stuff like belt clips and that sort of thing for sheaths, that's also an option. I know that I might have some access to that.
Yeah, I mean, politics aside, that's one thing I agree with what America's doing is we need to support South Africa,
Yeah.
We need to do locally made. We need to produce stuff in this country and stop relying on the Americas, the Chinas, the Russias, and all that for our survival. We need to become strong in ourselves.
Yeah.
And so that is support local, and let's try build this country up.
Yeah, and I think that actually segues nicely into what I wanted to discuss today, which is basically societal collapse. It is one of those things that gets talked about a lot. There is an entire subreddit called literally Collapse, and it's a theory about how societies go in cycles of build and collapse, build and collapse. Rome, for instance, was the most powerful empire at one stage. It collapsed. There have been empires in China and stuff that have also grown, got very powerful, and then they collapse, whether it's through social upheaval or war. I'm no expert on the subject. I have listened to a couple of podcasts. I know there's one called Breaking Down Collapse, which is quite interesting. But the idea of collapse and societal collapse does lead into the prepper world quite a lot. And where we tend to talk a lot, especially on this podcast, about what we think, and especially about natural disasters, fires, bushfires, because that's the things that we've experienced. Collapse in South Africa is, I think, something that is unfortunately inevitable. Since even before 94 elections, things have been getting progressively worse. Look at Eskom. Look at the state of our roads, our police forces. Things generally are just getting progressively worse. Law and order is getting rougher, if I can put it that way. Yeah, I don't know. Your thoughts?
Yeah. In South Africa, I mean, we look a lot to first world countries. I mean, seeing as we don't rank anywhere on it. And when the first world countries are going nanas and our country is looking for handouts from all those first world countries that are going a bit loopy in the head, it doesn't bode well when we are trying to emulate or ask for handouts or stylize our lives around things that are happening overseas, where we have strong cultures in this country, and if we can forget about the race baiting and all that type of stuff, we can get along. Because it doesn't matter if you're Zulu, it doesn't matter if your people came across on the, I almost said the Mayflower, the 1820 settlers, or you're from one of the Khoisan, the Sand tribes, or any of that. A new immigrant from India, or walked across the border from Zimbabwe. Okay, if you're here and want to help build South Africa, not rape it and take the money back to your country, or be part of corruption or criminal aspects and stuff. But if you're here to build this country, this is the people that we want. These are, and if we have politicians that are less worried about lining their pockets and being just trying to garner votes, so giving stuff away for free just so that they can get the votes to stay in power, and that's like a cycle.
Yeah, the T-shirt and food baskets 2 days before elections.
Yeah, and I was listening to a podcast, a lovely lady in, I think she's in Joburg, Citizen Concerned, and she was talking about, and it was Sri Lanka, that the CIA tried to overthrow them and try to bribe the guy and stuff, and he's just like, no, you can give them the money to the country, and they're like, no, we'll give you the money, and he's like, not a chance, bugger off type of thing, because he didn't want to accept the bribe. And when she was just saying, like, when are we as South Africans going to get politicians that put their country first, their people first, not what they can get out of it. If you're a politician, the only reason you're there, and you should be there, is to uphold the will of the people. If you're there for any other reason, if you're there to be a career politician only and make decisions only to retain your career politician status, you should not be there. Go find a job somewhere. Pick up a broom, sweep a street. Do something, because you are in the wrong job.
And this goes for all the parties, especially in South Africa. For our American listeners who live in a two-party state, in South Africa we've got a 200-party state.
Well,
pretty much
as much as fits on the ballot paper.
And those ballot papers get longer every election. As long as you can afford the money to go onto the ballot, and you don't have well, there are certain rules with the IEC, but if you've got, I think it's 35,000 Rand for a local election, you as an individual can go as an independent candidate.
Which is nice because it allows for diversity and different viewpoints. But the problem is our government is bloated enough.
Yeah.
Okay. And at the moment, the government, when they mess up and the guy is not doing his job, they don't fire him, because firing anybody is incredibly difficult in South Africa. They want to hire another person to make sure that the job gets done, not ask the original guy to do the job.
Or create a committee to oversee the committee of the committees.
Yes, and that is all money that is coming out of taxpayers. And the last I heard, there were like 20 million people on grants in South Africa.
Social grants.
I mean, we got 60 million people in South Africa?
Close to that, yeah.
And I think 6 million people pay tax in South Africa.
Yeah, let's not get started on
okay. And then
income
now
tax. It's a very sore subject with me at the moment.
They raise the VAT, which is fine in a sense because it taxes everyone equally. But at no point does the government say, okay, how about all the politicians take a pay cut? How about
God forbid.
all the extras and stuff, go away? Why is the government not tightening the belt to afford this money? Why does it have to come out more out of the taxpayer, more out of the citizens who these politicians are working for? They are there to run the country for us. We hire them. So why are they charging us more to do a worse job?
Yeah. So apart from bloated governments, and let's talk about what's happening in general and how, as a prepper, what we can do to avoid social or societal collapse. So if I look at my small town where we live here, Sedgefield, there is a citizen group that started up. I think Neisner has something similar, called Revive Sedgefield. And they basically making the town pretty again. They're planting flowers and keeping the verges trimmed and stuff. This is all stuff that the municipality, who we pay rates and taxes towards, is meant to be doing. But now you've got a group of private citizens who've taken it upon themselves to do that because it's not getting done by the local council.
So the problem with this is
it's putting a band-aid on.
Yeah, but also it's this thing of everyone can mess up everything. It's just there's certain people that will always try and help, that are trying to make things look pretty. But the problem is we have homeless guys living in the bush. Okay, every time you can't, and like you're talking about planting trees. Now you plant a hedge. As soon as you plant a hedge, 2 or 3 homeless guys are sleeping inside that hedge.
Yes.
Okay. The law enforcement is not doing what they need to do by clearing out the homeless and doing something with them. So these people that are making Knysna look pretty, making Sedgefield look pretty, why are they not pushing to have a place for these people without houses? Or there's vagrants that don't want a house. They don't want to be in. They need to be helped. A lot of them have mental issues. Okay, the guys that are seriously suffering with no job, that they're actually looking for a job, surely there can be stuff in place. Not forcing the government mandating and forcing people to hire flag wavers. I'm talking about, as a community, we should have places open or opportunities for people to get a work. But unfortunately, the way the government is set up, as soon as you get that guy a job, you can't get rid of him. If he literally has to like mess up completely for you to.
Yeah.
So then people just say, you know what, we're not even willing to try, and we have a problem in Nysa with vagrancy and stuff.
Here as well,
and Sedgefield as well, and we as a community need to pull together.
Yeah, and I think from a preparedness point of view, getting involved in your community is important, because we can prep for ourselves, and yes, we can put food away and have car insurance and have a bug out location and have solar and have well points and do what we can to prep for ourselves. But helping our communities will stop things getting worse quicker, if that makes sense.
But also, being involved in your community, however you're involved, will give you a more accurate feedback on how things are going.
Yes.
Because if I'm only relying on information from Brett, I'm only ever getting it from Brett's point of view. And his point of view might not be my point of view. So now Brett and I line up a lot closer than us and somebody else. And they might be going, oh no, everything's wonderful. And we're looking at it from a security point of view and going like, no, things are going backwards fast.
Yeah.
So the more you interact and the more you're around like-minded people, helping the community, interacting with the community, the more you can keep your finger on the pulse.
On the pulse of what's happening.
But the other side of things is when things go pear-shaped and you are part of the community, you're seen as a beneficial part or somebody that's already been helping. If you standoffish and stuff like that, you live on a hill in your ivory tower or whatever else, everybody sees you as the enemy.
Yeah.
The people that you think are your friends, the people that you know aren't your friends, everybody, because they just see you as privileged.
So this doesn't mean that we don't have OPSEC and that we don't give all our information. We never give all your information out. There's stuff, we talk about stuff all the time on this podcast of what stuff that we do. But there's a lot that we obviously don't tell people, which I'm not even going to go into because then I'll be telling people. So there's things that we have, that we've got, that we're never going to share.
So I shouldn't tell people about your private plane and helicopter and stuff. And
Yeah, I ran out of fuel, dude.
on the way to where?
Yeah.
Oh, can't say.
Can't say. To my bunker in New Zealand, yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, being involved in your community is definitely part of OPSEC. Because you can see what's out there. You, again, have this feedback. And the worst type of operational security is if you're in a bubble and you think everything's well with the world and you don't know that the zombies are coming up the road.
Yeah.
If you're part of the community, and a lot of the people that are poorer, they live hard and stuff, they're a lot more aware of the changes of environment.
Very quickly, yeah.
And when you know guys like that, they'll often come say to you, oh, but somebody's targeting you.
Or this rumor about the strike or whatever, yeah.
And you get that feedback where if you weren't part of that, you'd
never know.
Yeah. And I mean, we had it years ago at the company I work at. One of the guys just came to us and said, by the way, we hear that the guys are wanting to come like hit you, rob you.
Yeah.
And so we put stuff in place. It never happened, which is great. but it's useful to have that information ahead of time.
Better safe than sorry, as they say.
Yes. So it's the more kindly you treat people, and the more you are giving and stuff. And I'm not saying just give money for nothing, okay? But hold people accountable for what you're providing. If a person wants to work in your garden, don't be stingy and not pay them, but require that work be done.
Yes.
So that they have a value system. They can get that money and has a value. They know how much time they've spent or what labor they put into it. Otherwise, we're just giving stuff for nothing, and the people blow that money on booze and cigarettes. And then they're just as poor as before you gave them the money.
So, in a lot of smaller communities and a lot of rural communities, there are people that have started food gardens, community gardens. And I've always thought this is a great idea because I don't necessarily have farming skills. I can probably grow some tomato plants, and I've got seeds and stuff that I can use for that. But I work full time.
Yes.
Okay. Growing fruit and veggies is a full-time job.
Definitely.
And anybody that thinks that you can just go and plant some veggies in your garden and come back in 3 weeks and you've got carrots, it doesn't work that way. There's a lot more that goes into it. And
it's actually easier. What you do is you go to Food Lovers and the carrots are right there.
But the point I'm getting to is that things are getting worse.
Yeah.
Okay. Trucks are getting hijacked. We have civil unrest, which can block off major arteries into the area. We're on the garden route. We've got a north-south. That's it. There's very little that goes over the mountains.
No, you mean east-west.
Okay, east-west. Yeah.
South is sea, north is mountains.
Oh, yes. I always get mixed up. I'm from Cape Town, dude. I know where south and north is there. Everything in Cape Town, everything is north. If you live in Cape Town, everything is somewhere north.
North and east.
Yeah, okay. But
we've got one. You were a scout.
We've got one major artery that travels through this area. There's very little smaller roads that you can get trucks in on. If there is a social unrest event, like happens quite often between Platt and Neisner, if those guys really want to close that road, they can close it that nothing can get through for days.
Yeah. Well, not with a government or a police force or a municipality that isn't willing to step in and actually fix the problem. When taxis are allowed to run rampant and stop people illegally, okay? When guys who get stuff for free go and start burning tires on the N2 because they're not getting enough stuff for free or in their timeline, there's something wrong. I'm not saying don't be giving, don't be altruistic. I'm saying that these people, a lot of them are being instigated for political reasons.
Totally.
Okay? But ultimately, they're going, and I'm not saying they don't have reason to be upset. But if everyone in South Africa wanted to burn down something just because I'm upset, then there's a problem.
There wouldn't be anything left standing, yeah.
Where do I light my fire for all the times I've had to pay availability charge for electricity when there's
stage 8 load shedding
or any load shedding because I'm paying for a service that I'm not getting? So should I also go light fires somewhere? And what about every other person in Neisner, in Sedgefield, in the rest of the country? Imagine the pollution problem we'd have. And it's you can't run a civilized society like that. When you have a lady, again on this, I think it was Citizen Concerned, she showed a lady that was talking about her grandkids in the school, when they're going to build these schools, and the government has built a multi-million rand school that is never been used, and because it's unsafe and whatever else. These are problems that need to be solved, okay? And the governments need to sort that out. But as a community, we need to be able to pull together so that if you want to start a community garden, you know, that the community is strong enough that they won't allow the riffraff that wants to come in and steal or wreck it or whatever. Because you get those people that will come in and burn it down just because they want to burn it down.
Yeah.
We need to be strong enough that we remove the drug dealers, we remove the criminal element. Not violently, okay, but just by the force of that. If they put a toe out of line, we don't suddenly not know anything when the police come ask. We actually get hold of the security company, we get hold of the police force and say, that man is selling drugs, that man is stealing stuff to sell as scrap. You know, if we become more honest as a community and protect each other as neighbors, then the criminal element that relies on moving between the gaps in the shadows, they have no place to hide.
No, I agree totally. And you see it up here quite a lot, maybe because we're living in smaller communities. When I was living in Cape Town, okay, I wasn't as aware as I am now, but if somebody drove through a red light, they're in a hurry. Here, when people just drive through stop streets and drive through red lights, it's different because it's a small community. You know who that person is, and you can go to them and go like, hey, why did you do that?
But you're talking about driving through stop streets and all that type of stuff. I've seen old white women, old white men driving like taxis now because they are so sick of having to deal with it that they just start, and that's the wrong mentality.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't get the society to function correctly by emulating the bad driving in the taxis and their attitude. You put a standard that has to be kept up, and if the police are not doing their job, you need to report it. If the traffic officers aren't doing the job, you need to report it and hold them to a higher standard so that we fix those problems.
Yeah. Don't stoop to the lowest level.
Or
try and raise up.
One of the things I heard many years ago that said, if you want to fix a violent crime in a city, in a town, okay, first thing you do is catch jaywalkers.
Okay.
You start with the smaller stuff and you start working out so that people know that the cops aren't going, oh, well, you know, it's just walking across the road in the wrong place. It's too much paperwork. I'm not going to do it. When the police are doing the small things, the guys doing the big crimes
are getting away with it.
No, they start getting worried because there's more police presence out there. Yeah. Okay. And the more the people aren't doing the small stuff, the more you start noticing when they're doing the big stuff, you know, so that the bigger criminals can't hide in the white noise of everyone breaking the law a little bit. And if we have the law in the country changing to support legal, law-abiding citizens, okay, so stop taking away and making it harder to protect ourselves. Stop protecting the criminals and giving them more excuse to get out of court and out of jail. And if we as tax-paying, law-abiding citizens have the law on our side, okay, then the criminals are more scared of messing with law-abiding citizens. Otherwise they just do what they want to. I mean, I've the one place close to Neisner, the guys are like, okay, well, you know, at night if you get home and you discover you don't have bread, you just don't go out, because there's gangs that not only rob you, they will walk around and just beat you up for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's where communities have to pull together and say, we don't accept that anymore.
Yeah, you see it's starting to happen a lot in Cape Town. in Mitchell's Plain and Athlone and areas like that, which have been notorious gang areas, where the communities started standing up. Unfortunately, in a lot of those cases, it just the gangs get more violent because we're talking that's their bread and butter. That's how they make their money. But there are ways of doing it. Look, I'm not a law enforcement expert. I'm not a legal expert. I'm just a guy sitting in front of a microphone. But we all have ideas. And I think if you're living in, whether it's your suburb or if you're in a smaller town like we are, try and get involved in your community and I know you can't explain things to people all the time. You're not there to teach them that they can't go through red lights. But you can say, look, hey, why did you do that? Why did you throw that bottle out of your car?
Well, the excuse is I'm making a job for somebody. but you have to change people at the fundamental root of everything is you have to change their character, their way of thinking about things. If you like South Africa and you are proud of South Africa, then why would you want to throw a bottle out?
Exactly.
If you care for your fellow man, why would you want to throw a bottle out and risk some kid cutting their feet open?
Or a felt fire starting, or numerous things, yeah.
And that it comes down to the fundamental. If we treat each other with respect and care, you don't do those things because it impacts somebody else. You know, it's like it's the base nature of people we need to change. You can't legislate people to be happier or more loving and stuff. You got to change the people. Well, each person has to change themselves, but we got to get to a point where people understand that.
Yeah,
you have people that have grown to be very happy, be very successful, be very influential in the world, who've come from rich families, from poor families, from gutter born, you know. And I've seen videos of people who function very well in the world and they're missing limbs. They were sometimes born without them.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes they've lost them through various things. And they don't get anywhere by going, well, it was the old regime's fault. It was this demographic's fault. It was that thing. It was somebody didn't give me a chance. Somebody, you know, one of the businesses I heard of, and I might have said it before, is there was apparently two brothers or friends in Soweto, and they started catching rats. Okay. Because there's a rat problem.
Yeah.
And eventually they thought, okay, well, now they got the skins, so they started tanning the skins and then making leather products, like we got here. And then now they get to a point where they're employing people to catch rats, so like a pest control, employing people to do tanning of hides and building stuff. Then they're like, wait a second, all these rats have meat and stuff, so they started processing that, cooking it down and making pet food. And they made a whole business, an industry around it. And so these guys who came from basically nothing became business owners.
Yeah.
And proper entrepreneurship. Not the government coming and say, oh, well, you know, you can't get a back actor to dig a ditch. You have to hire 20 guys with spades because we're trying to do job creation. No. Encourage people, and at school level as well, encourage people to start a business. Chop wood, sell the wood, kill rats, tan the hides, and make leather stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever. The world is your oyster. But a lot of the people who are wanting South Africa to stay in the chaos that it is now say, well, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's somebody else's fault that you're not doing anything and you're not making money. I watched a thing once where the guy was talking about how he was in his life, and he was always poor, and then one day just decided, you know what, I'm tired of being poor. And he applied himself and he built a business. He was in America, he's multi-million-dollar millionaire. Because he just decided one day, you know what, he's tired of living hand to mouth.
No, that's it.
And then he worked.
And what you're talking about there, it's a mindset thing. And if you've always lived in squalor and poverty, and you believe you can't get out of it because that's what everybody keeps telling you, but you've never actually tried.
No, it's true. I've lived in a caravan and tent for 3 months when we first moved to Knysna, because we had nowhere.
Yeah,
We couldn't really afford it, but we had nowhere to move to. But the thing is, you have to make decisions, and what are you willing to do? There's a lot of guys that sit next to the road wanting a job for 500 Rand a day. So they turn down any job of 100 Rand a day. And they'll sit there for a week waiting for work for 500 Rand a day, instead of going to do a job for 100 Rand a day, impressing the living snot out of the employer, so that the employer goes, you know what, I think you are worth 500 Rand a day, and start paying him 500 Rand a day. They'd rather earn nothing so they can blame somebody than work hard on a little bit to prove. And I've said it to guys before, if you want job experience, because the guy's like, oh, no one's hiring, I can't get job experience. I said, if you go to an engineering firm, building company, mechanic store, no, what's it called?
Mechanic?
Yeah.
Garage?
Yeah, the service vehicles and stuff. And you say, I would like to gain job experience. Can I come work for you for free for the next week, 2 weeks, so that you can gain job experience? Especially kids coming out of school. Go to a place and ask. I've even said to my son, you're interested in this and this and this. Go and ask if you can work there, because then you gain experience on that thing, so that you know more.
Yes.
Even if you never work in that field, it doesn't matter. It's not about, at that point, it's not about earning money. It's about gain the experience of working. And you know what? The very often happens when a person works like that, the person you're working for goes, that person works really well. I want to employ them.
Yeah, definitely.
Gaining work experience is a very important part of being prepared. Gaining any experience, because the world might not have many mechanics or electricians or any of that type of stuff in the future, depending on what future unfolds.
Yeah.
So if you take one of these apocalyptic things where most of the world dies out from some pandemic, or the aliens or the zombies or something, finding people with practical experience in trades and hands-on experience and stuff, they're going to be harder to find. And I mean, if you take the trend of the way the world's going, everybody's going more computers and stuff like that. So it's already harder to find tradespeople.
Definitely, yeah.
So anybody, even if you want to go into computers, you want to be a computer programming, you can gain experience working on vehicles. You can gain experience welding, doing electrics, that type of thing, just so that you have a broad base to fall back on if you need it.
Becoming more of a generalist as opposed to a specialist.
You can be both. The whole original thing was a jack of all trades and a master of one. So you master one trade, but you know a huge amount about everything else.
Everything else, yeah.
So we were just talking about doing plugs in a house and stuff, and you need to know how to change a plug.
Yes.
You need to know what the difference between AC and DC is, so that when you out on your own one day and you're trying to connect a solar panel or a generator or something, you're not taking your one and only, the last one in existence type of thing and blowing it up because you connected it wrong.
No, definitely.
Unlike what we did when we were lighties, we try to recharge one of those old 9-volt batteries, the big block ones for the radios. And we connected to 220. And this thing started bubbling and smoking. And so we lobbed it out the window.
That was probably the best option, yeah. No, we did how we survived our teens and our 20s. Sometimes I don't know.
Yeah, no. There's the stuff that we got up to, a lot of the kids don't understand nowadays.
Dude, I drank out of the hose. No, sorry, I know it's a meme thing, but yeah. I'm an 80s child, so...
Yeah, it's like we weren't worried about a lot of things, but the water was also different then.
It was clean.
I don't know that... It might have been cleaner, less chemicals in it, but you know what? Your system was harder. You could run barefoot across the bulkies and not care. You could eat about anything, including the dog food, and your system was fine. Nowadays we're so pipperig. If there's anything wrong,
and that brings it back to prepping. We've become soft. We need to. I'm not saying we must all go do cold plunges, but yeah, we need to toughen up a bit, including myself.
Oh, if you look at the cultures that do fermented foods and that type of stuff, because they don't have easy access to refrigerators and the modern conveniences, their systems are harder. They don't get sick like we get sick. They don't have the same stomach problems just when the milk in the refrigerator starts looking at its best before date. They'll drink stuff well after, or eat stuff that is we'd consider unsafe, and that'll be fine.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely. And we always end up on the subject of food,
because food's important and delicious.
Yeah,
especially the we had a little quick snack now, which was an apple bread cake / something. It was really nice.
It was different.
Yes,
I haven't had something like that before, but it used minimal ingredients and pretty much a couple of leftover apples that we had in the house. It was using the ingredients that we had. We didn't have to go out and buy, special baking ingredients and stuff for it. It was stuff that we had in our pantry. I can't bake, so I left that up to the person in the house that can.
But that's where, being, the scout, one of the scout laws is being thrifty.
Yeah.
And if you walking through the bush and you come up on the last few wrinkly looking bee stung apples on a tree and found some eggs in a nest somewhere and whatever else, and you can
That's a
gather
meal,
stuff
dude.
like that, and then you find a way to make it go far.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people, they'll use canning apples or something, but they collect these and they're weird small green little apples, and you sit half the time just cutting the stings out.
Yeah.
Yet you take a whole bucket of those, you cook them down, and they're awesome. And we have to change our mindset from these perfect fruit and perfect things, because if you're going to go out in the bush, you're going to go live. If you're going to grow your own food, you be prepared for working around the worms.
So, as a classic one is carrots. We go to the shop, we buy a bag of these almost always perfectly carrot-shaped carrots, if I can put it that way.
Yes.
Those have almost been bred to get that perfect shape. There's no rocks in that soil. There's nothing. They are cultured in that direction.
I'm pretty sure those things are hydroponic.
Nowadays, I'm not sure. Oh. But if you ever grow your own carrots, which I have done once, they will grow around a rock, and you'll cut that thing open, and there will be a rock inside your carrot because the carrot has worked its way around it.
Yeah, you see carrots, they're hugging each other.
Yeah.
And some carrots are really thick and only about like 20 mil deep into the soil. And they're amazing.
Yeah. So we're so used to perfect food because if a shop wants to sell something, it needs to look good. Otherwise, it's just going to go to waste on their shelf.
Or we don't want to buy a tin with a dent in it. We
Yeah.
don't want to buy a tin over the sell-by date.
Yeah. We need to be more resilient when it comes to food. And I'm not saying don't be safe, but be a little less picky maybe. And I think generally people in the prepping community are cognizant and aware of those facts. Like I bought yesterday, I was lucky enough to get onto a WhatsApp group, a guy that supplies pineapples.
Okay.
And I got 30 pineapples for, I think it was 180 Rand. They are by no means the world's biggest pineapples. But I cut 4 of them up this morning, and they are sweet.
Yes.
And I'm going to use those pineapples to now experiment.
Not pineapple beer.
No, I've done pineapple beer before, dude. I'm not a fan.
Everybody did it COVID.
Exactly. I had some really... I wasn't thirsty enough to drink some of the pineapple beers that I saw out there. Yeah, I'll rather go without than do that.
Yeah.
But I want to try and do different types of preserves. I'm going to dehydrate some. I've already frozen some. I'm going to do a spicy, almost like a chutney. I'm going to do a pickle. So I'm going to try pickle pineapple, like you would do like I did with the carrots. Something
What
similar
about
to
that
that.
sweet pickle thing that like you did with the blueberries?
Yeah, I'm gonna. So because I've got so many pineapples, I can try a large variety of things.
Yeah.
I am gonna try as much as possible and document it all in photo, so that we can put it onto the Facebook groups and people can see what we're doing. I want to try, now that I've got those canning tools off Temu, I want to try canning some mince. You know, make some bolognese sauce up and then can it.
Yes.
Yeah, if it doesn't work, it's a bit of a waste of money and I'm throwing food away. But that's the only way we learn, is by experimenting.
Well, the thing is, you don't have to wait 20 years to eat your canned mince.
Yeah.
You can can it, check that it seals, and then try it. The
Yeah.
best way is always to try it, to know that you got the recipe right.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's no point waiting 2 years and then trying it and we're like, oh my word, I should have used less of this, you know.
Well, I cook fairly regularly, so I kind of know my recipes already. But obviously, you have to change things up a bit for the canning. But yeah, it'll be an interesting experiment.
Oh, very much.
You were saying something earlier about salted lard or something that you saw?
Yeah, apparently I think it's a Ukrainian dish. Watched a couple of YouTube videos where they take the blocks of lard, so the pig fat,
Yeah.
and they cut it into chunks, and then they roll it around in salt and then shove it into these jars. And they actually had a very interesting lid. Like we use console jars, or in America it's like mason jars.
Yeah.
These looked similar, but the lid actually crimps on. So they put the lid on and then have a roller that forms the lid in and it crimps it to the
Okay.
top. So it properly seals it. And there's no one just opening it and messing with your seal. And what they do is they take that salted lard and they put it in a food processor and basically cream it. So they make a paste, and they put garlic, like crushed garlic, and I think it was parsley in it, and then put it in a jar, that whole paste, and put it in the fridge to firm it up, and then they use it like a spread. And apparently it tastes delicious.
I'm sure.
I would love to try it. I mean, it's,
I wonder if
it's
you
like butter, but
I
not.
wonder if you smoked it first, if you could get a bit of a smoky flavor. Like you would smoke for bacon.
Yeah. But again, it's one of those things that I would do that. And before canning it, try
it.
a piece and then cream it up and see. Because sometimes too much smokiness is too much.
Yeah, no. But yeah, no. And this comes back to the self-reliance and resilience. I never thought 2 years ago that I would be dehydrating food and canning food. I don't have a pressure canner.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do the old school water bath method. I really never thought I'd be doing that. But
Or sitting on a podcast talking about it.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I'm looking at the way things are going in general in the world at the moment, and South Africa specifically. and how expensive things are getting, and going, okay, if I'm getting lean beef mince at 89 Rand a kilo now, what's it going to cost me next year?
Yeah.
It's going to be 129 Rand a kilo next year, probably. If not more than that. And people always ask, but I should have started prepping years ago. Start prepping today. Don't prep tomorrow, prep today. Start today. It doesn't matter that you haven't got anything put away yet. Start now. And even if it's one extra can of baked beans that you buy when you go to the shop, it's a start, and it'll save you in the long run. There's cans in my pantry that I bought 3-4 years ago that I'm only using now. Yes. I bought red kidney beans when they were still 12 Rand a can. You can't get them for under 25 Rand a can now. So I saved myself money in the long run doing that. So my preps I use all the time. I'm rotating stuff out.
Yes.
And the way the world economy is going at the moment, and again, South African economy in specific, even though the Rand's doing a bit better against the dollar, but that's just a blip, I think. Having stuff put away, having that, it is insurance. It is what keeps us going in the tough times.
Yeah, definitely. And like we were discussing yesterday about venison and harvesting beef and lamb and all that, getting the contacts and then start working together in your area so that if you have a chance of getting a full side of beef, a whole cow, that type of thing, that you know what you can do with it and where to store it and stuff.
Yeah.
Because you can want bulk meat all you want, but if you haven't bought a chest freezer, you're kidding yourself.
It's not going to help, yeah.
You know, if you want to start prepping, get yourself a chest freezer. Start taking 2-liter bottles of water or Coke or whatever else and put water in them and then put them in the chest freezer. Let them start freezing. Because if you take bulk meat and you just pack your whole freezer full, the meat will rot in the middle before it freezes.
Okay.
It takes that long.
Yeah.
So you need actual thermal mass. So let the bottles of water freeze over time. And then when you pack your meat, you can put the meat down, you can pack frozen bottles in and then pack more meat so you can chill that meat down as soon as possible.
Okay, that's a good tip. I've never even thought of that.
Yeah, and as your freezer fills up, you take your bottles out, you stand them next to it, and they can wait till it starts emptying again. And as it empties, you add bottles of water in. And the greater your thermal mass, the longer your freezer will stay frozen.
Even during load shedding.
Yeah. And like I said before, air doesn't freeze. Yeah. So if you got 100% air in your freezer, it defrosts straight away.
Yeah.
So
that's a very good point.
But yeah,
so you're saying I need to buy myself a chest freezer?
Yes.
The next goal, yeah. But yeah, keep an eye on our social media, guys. We will be posting very regularly with regard to anything that comes across specifically my mind, because I do most of the posting. If I see something, I forward it on. If I'm doing something, I take pictures. We've got the gadgets that we posted from the last episode are all up on Facebook now. Some people were asking about the tripod gadget and how that works. So it was quite fun trying to explain that.
The one you put the sticks in.
The one you put the sticks in, yeah. Pictures are always a lot easier, so I went and just downloaded a picture of it and I put the picture up.
You know what we should do is do tripod lashing versus that and see if one is better than the other one.
Good test. We need to start testing the stuff.
Yes,
so,
and hence the video side of things. So.
Yeah. So we'll be starting to do that now. Also with winter coming up for us here in South Africa, we're heading out. We're going into autumn fairly soon, so temperatures are already dropping.
Yeah, and we also have a less of a stretch to come up with a reason to make a fire.
Not in this house. I don't have a fireplace, except for the braai outside.
Yeah, but I'm saying in summer, you're like, why do I want to make a fire, except for a braai? Yeah. In winter, it's like, I'll make a fire. Yeah. Anyway, pick a place. I'll make it.
Anyway, I think that's enough of us rambling for one day. So, thank you very much for joining us. You've been listening to Off-Grid Survival. And yeah, I will see you next time. Cheers.
Cheers. Have a good day.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Off-Grid Survival. For more info and updates, feel free to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Off-Grid Survival ZA. That's it for now. We will see you next time. And always remember, be prepared. Off-Grid Survival is a member of the South African Podcasters Guild. The views expressed on this podcast are those of the speakers and may not reflect OGS Media or the Guild's views. We aim for accuracy but cannot guarantee it. Please verify information independently. Consult professionals before acting on any advice given during these episodes. By listening, you acknowledge that we are not responsible for any damages resulting from reliance on our content. All content is provided without warranty.